How to buy a home in Crowley, Texas. That is what we're on today. That is our mission and vision for today. How to buy a home in Crowley. Now, if you have no idea where Crowley is, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you where that is. But really, we're going to go straight into the meat and potatoes of it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And as always, a like is going to go a long way. It's going to help us push this video out to the masses that want to learn more about Crowley itself. So let's buy this house. Let's get right into it. Let's begin. So first off, let's ask that golden question. That golden question that gets our mindset right. And the one question that I ask our clients that we work with is, hey, if it makes sense for you to buy, will I actually do it? So here again, asking yourself, if it makes sense for me to buy, will I actually do it? That if all the conditions are set, will I actually go through and purchase a home? If the answer is no, hey, that's okay. And the reason that I'm asking our clients to ask themselves this is because it saves a lot of heartache. It saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of frustration, because buying real estate can get emotional, especially if you're looking at a home that you're thinking about buying. So essentially I want you to save some time, want you to save some energy, money, and just resources. If you know yourself that you're basically just looking into homes just because you heard somebody, hey, you should probably buy, or somebody was, you saw that one of your coworkers bought and you had no other reason or motivation to do it than just hearsay, if you will, or just hearing somebody else is doing it, then go ahead and pump the brakes. You don't have to. So again, just getting the mindset right. Now, I'm not forcing you, like there's other things to consider, but if all the conditions are right, once you go through the entire program, once you go through this entire home buyer class that you're about to see on buying a home in Crowley, if you go through the entire process and the everything is in place, everything is in order, everything makes sense for you to buy, if assuming that everything it checks out, if you still don't have plans to execute on that beyond just thinking about it, then you probably should just not go forward with it. Again, just want to save you some time, save you some energy, because we see that plenty that they'll go through to the final phases, and then at the end of the day, they just know themselves and they're never gonna actually go through with the purchase. Again, saving yourself some time is going to be very valuable at the end of the day. All right, so as a quick reminder, if you head over to DFWHomeBuyerClass.com, you're going to get all of our resources, all of our notes. So make sure that you go to DFWHomeBuyerClass.com and also hit that like button. It's right there. It's free. It would be helpful for all of us. All right, so let's talk about the financial assessment, the three main types of expenses that you can expect whenever you're purchasing real estate. So each number is going to be different, so don't worry too much about getting the exact numbers today. You will need to do that as part of your homework assignment, but as far as awareness for the time being, is you really break it down into three distinct expenses, three distinct costs if you're going to go through and purchase a home. So again, up until this moment, you're still considering it, you're going through it, but having this financial assessment is going to help you out tremendously. The first thing that you got to be mindful of is the ongoing cost of buying real estate. So this means the mortgage payment. This means utility costs. Or paying utilities. In many cases, paying more in utilities, especially if you're coming for an apartment. This means repairs. This means maintenance. This means the ongoing cost of home ownership. Oftentimes, we just look at the monthly payment and we think, okay, well, I can make that payment, whatever happens to be, let's say $2,500. Well, I can make that payment, but then we often overlook, okay, well, when a repair happens, well, do I have $1,800 to replace that water heater that went out? Am I going to take care of the lawn, or am I going to pay somebody $50 a mow, right? These ongoing costs, they add up, and they continue to add up. So first part of your financial assessment is really, can I sustain the ongoing cost of home ownership? The second is the transaction cost. So oftentimes we think, hey, I have enough for that down payment. I have 3% down, so I can get into a conventional loan. And oftentimes we forget or not aware that there's additional expenses, additional costs to that, often referred to as closing costs. So this means covering the title policy. This means lender expenses. This means appraisals. This means surveys. These means expenses that you had no idea existed. You thought, well, maybe all I need is just the down payment and I'll be good to go. Well, unfortunately, when it comes to closing costs, you can budget in another 3 to 5% depending on the type of real estate that you purchase. So if you have 3% down for the down payment, that's awesome, but also realize that you have about 3% more in additional expenses to close on that loan, in additional fees that to close on that home, right? So transaction costs are a real thing. That's the second thing to consider. The third thing is the moving cost. It's going to cost money to get out of the home that you're in, transport all of your belongings to the new place, and in the new place, either furnish it, repair, or do some updating. So it costs money. So for you to get out of the place that you're in, most likely you have a deposit at stake. So you're trying to get it back to even or back to as close to how you received that property before you move out, or you're going to lose that deposit. So there's an expense to that. The second thing would be, again, moving your belongings, whether you go and hire a professional or you try to do it yourself. There's still some expense to that, whether it's gas money or people helping you out. You're going to be compensating somebody to do that. And then, of course, when you're moving into a new place, oftentimes it's not going to be perfect. So you're going to be either doing some repairing or doing some upgrades, and at bare minimum, buying some additional furniture, because it's very rare that you're moving from one location to another and everything fits in perfectly, because the layouts are all different, right? So that table that you had as your dining table may not fit any longer. So now you have to go and buy either a smaller one or a larger one to fit the particular home that you're in. These all add up. So again, you have the ongoing costs. Can you sustain those? The transaction costs. Can you actually purchase a property at this point in time? And also the moving costs. Can you get out of the home that you're in into the new one and still have money to live? These are things that you need to, this is a part of the financial assessment that you need to be making. All right, so the next step is, and if you've been watching these live streams in the past on how to buy a home, in this particular case in Crowley, Texas, we've been toying around with the finding a real estate agent versus getting pre-qualified, the chicken or the egg problem. But at the end of the day, finding the right real estate agent, I do believe, is the next step. It's something that is very valuable, because if you work with the right real estate agent, they will give you access to a really powerful network of lenders, powerful network of title companies to work with, vendors to work with. They really help shortcut your home purchasing journey and also make it more less stress. They will provide a more stress-free environment for you. So when you're finding a right real estate agent, one statistic that I like to share with clients that interview us to help them with their purchase is that last year, 50% of the real estate agents out there sold one or no homes. I'll say that again. Last year, 50% of real estate agents out there sold one or zero homes. That's alarming, right? So we all know that cousin, we all know that friend, we all know that past coworker. Just be mindful of who you're working with. Now, I'm not saying don't work with any new real estate agent ever, or else nobody would get into the business. But what I am saying is work with somebody that does have some experience or access to people in their network that has that experience. It's okay to give somebody a shot, the same way that I got my first shot through my first transaction ever. Shout out Jaron and Sylvia, who to this day continue to refer me business, even though that first transaction was a disaster. Absolute disaster. But they're close friends to this day. Just this past year, helped them move out of their home, the very first home that I helped them purchase, and move into another home as their family grew. So again, what I'm suggesting here is that work with somebody that has experience and or access to a network of individuals that has experience. So they need to have experience in real estate and experience in the area that you're looking to purchase. So again, working with somebody that's experienced in your market cannot be overstated. It's absolutely vital. You need somebody that knows what's going on in the neighborhood, what's going on as development is happening, what's going on with the schools and everything in between. But also, of course, they have something that they're able to share with you, the actual value that they bring to the conversation, whether that's negotiation skill, whether that's the resources that they have access to in the form of other individuals, and also the network that they maintain. There has to be something in there for you, as opposed to just having somebody represent you and they collect a commission check. And again, I'm calling my own out sometimes, right? So working with someone that knows the market and knows real estate is very powerful, especially knowing the contracts, because contracts can jeopardize a large portion of your money if you do not know how to navigate them. Next step is getting pre-qualified. So once you're working with the real estate agent, chances are they have a preferred network of lenders that you can work with. They're going to give you a short list of individuals that they know are have reputable, have a reputation, have experience, can close on time, and have done right by their clients previously. So while you may be going through the real estate purchase once every 10 years, well, a qualified real estate agent is going through that same real estate transaction with one of their clients once every day, right? So the same thing with us. So whenever we are working with preferred lenders, it's because we know that those lenders have great customer service, have great rates, have great low fees, and also will do right by the client because we continue to refer them business nonstop. That's why, again, that network really is important. But let's talk about getting pre-qualified. You as a home buyer, you want to get pre-qualified in order for you to stand a chance of actually getting an offer accepted. So we're in a moment here, we're gonna go through the properties in Crowley, Texas, the homes that are available for sale right now. I'm gonna show you how to actually purchase one of these. I'm gonna show you step by step on what it looks like. I'm gonna show you the contract that you're gonna be using to purchase. I'm gonna show you everything that you're gonna need to know about purchasing a home in Crowley. So again, we're only talking Crowley. So if you're from Crowley, let me know in the comment section down below. If you're thinking about Crowley, go ahead and comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. When you're seeing property, when you're out there and looking at properties, as we will be today, when you're looking at properties out on the market, when you put an offer into play, you really need to substantiate how it is that you're going to pay for the property. It makes perfect sense, right? But oftentimes we overlook that. Oftentimes we go and look at property without any earthly idea how we're going to finance it, or we think that we're going to be able to have enough money, or we think that we're going to be able to qualify for a loan, when in reality something within our credit or something within our debt to income ratio is off, and we're going to all these different places only to find out once we are serious and we do try to get that qualified for that loan, that we're not eligible for it. So again, that's why we want to get pre-qualified. It shows the sellers that you're serious. It sets a realistic budget for you. Oftentimes we don't know how much exactly it is that the lender is willing to lend us in order to purchase a home. So having clarity up front is going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of resources. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money at the end of the day. So you're not putting yourself into contracts that can potentially lose your earnest money, which we'll talk about here shortly. Now, you also want to, once you do get that realistic budget in place, don't feel obligated to spend all that money. Don't feel obligated if you get qualified for up to $500,000. Don't feel obligated to spend all $500,000. You can go lower. You don't have to max that out. One of the more important reasons that I encourage you to do this, the not max out your budget type of a deal, is because property taxes are a real thing here in Texas. Property taxes in Texas are among the highest in the country. So the moment that these property taxes rise, which they have been over the years, you're in trouble. Your mortgage payment's going to go to a point where you can't, if you're right on the edge, to where you might not be able to afford it. And that's tough. Now, another quick thing is the same way that you get quotes from multiple vendors is the same way that I encourage you to get quotes from multiple lenders, not vendors. So in this particular case, getting multiple lenders involved to see what types of rates they have, to see the types of fees they have is very advisable. And here's the cool thing. Whenever you get your credit pulled for the first application that you submit with a lender, the following applications, the following credit pulls don't affect your credit. So they, when it comes to the bureaus, you get a grace period after you pull in that first credit, or after that first time your credit gets pulled, you get a grace period where it doesn't affect your credit at all. So you're able to pull 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as you're shopping different lenders. So just as a pro tip there, your credit, anytime in the past, we've been trained where if our credit gets pulled once, oh, well, crap, now my credit is absolutely shot. That's not the case. Now, before we get to the actual map, before we start looking at Crowley itself and looking at the homes in Crowley that are available for sale, let's start talking about our strategy. What's our search strategy? Because it absolutely is vital that we have it dialed in. Well, number one, we need to have a must-have list. So essentially, it's a needs list, and get up to 5 of those, no more than that. So what is it that you need in a home? What is it that you must have? No compromising. Is it that it needs to be in a specific school district? Is it that it needs to be a single story? Is it that you cannot have a pool? What is it that is on a must list? What is it that is on a needs list? Get no more than 5 out there, because the more that you go into the needs list, the more impossible it is to find that home. Right, so there's just rest assured that there's no perfect home out there. There's going to be some compromises that you do, but there are a certain amount of needs out there, must-haves out there that you aren't willing to compromise, and that's okay. So again, get your must list, get your must-haves list, get your needs list. Now, where we can be a little bit more flexible is in our wants list. These are things that you would want, but it's not going to break the deal. Now, enough of these wants lists do need to be checked off, but not all of them. So if you want a certain type of floor plan, if you want 3-car garage but could deal with 2, if you would like half an acre but a third of an acre on a cul-de-sac is fine. These are wants, right? So have that list as well. Now, the reason I encourage you to get those 2 lists ahead of time is because it removes the emotion out of it. When you start searching homes, once you start looking at the ones that you don't like, or especially once you go after one that you do like and miss out, it's so much easier to get into the emotion of this, into the emotional buying, and really start making irrational decisions. We'll put it that way. Start making irrational choices. So this is going to keep your emotions in check. So if you are out there just thinking through, well, hopefully this offer gets accepted. It's not everything that I want, but I just want to get into a home. If you start thinking that way very flippantly, it's going to be almost guaranteed that you get buyer's remorse. So I want to avoid that for you. Now, once you have your must list, once you have your wants list, it's going to be so much easier for you to do a safe search. So you on your end, you're probably going to go to Zillow, you're probably going to go to realtor.com and get a safe search there so you can get the notifications. But what you're also going to see, and what you're also going to do most likely, is going to be reaching out to a real estate agent. Our contact information is down below, by the way. And that real estate agent is going to set up what's called a safe search. And that safe search is going to be sent to you as soon as property becomes available that meets your criteria. But again, you need to have that clarity ahead of time so you're able to communicate with your real estate agent what it is that you're even looking for. Because if you don't have an idea, they're not going to have an idea either, right? So have what you're willing to pay, have the areas that you're looking for, have the number of rooms, have the number of baths, have these things, this criteria in place. So the moment that something hits your inbox, you know that it fits your buy box. It hits more of the things that you're actually looking for in a home. Now, something that's going to save you a ton of time, and it's going to save you really accelerate your home purchasing. You accelerate your home purchase and make your time a lot easier is vetting the listings that come to you, and also driving the area that you actually want to be in. So those are the 2 things that I really encourage you to do. Is once you're thinking about an area that you want to move to, so as an example, if you we're buying here in Crowley, let's just say you lived in Arlington all your life, and now you're considering Crowley. Well, if you lived in Arlington all your life and you're also working in Arlington, you need to know what it's going to feel like on Thursday afternoon whenever you're driving home, right? So if you're at that point, I encourage you when your time is done at work, drive to Crowley as if you were driving home. Do that simulation beforehand. Do not make that first drive be after you closed on the home, because at that point it's already too late, right? You might find yourself that the commute is just way more than you thought or that you could handle. So again, visit the areas that you're considering moving into and vet the homes that are being sent to you. When I say vet the homes, I mean going into the listing itself, looking at the pictures, looking at the description, and seeing, is it what I actually am looking for? So when you're looking for a home, you can find yourself going to these areas and going to these homes. If you don't pre-vet them, or essentially look at these listings ahead of time, you might find that it just doesn't really fit what you were looking for. You might find that the condition is worse than what you wanted to. Well, if you go to these homes after work, or if you go to homes on these weekends, then you can find yourself going to tons of homes and not finding one that you actually want to move forward with, and that becomes problematic for you, right? So again, when your search in an effective way, this search strategy has helped our clients get into homes so much faster and for much less money. Now, why is it less money? Well, when you have clarity ahead of time, you know what you're willing to pay for and what you're not willing to pay for. And you know that in some cases, the best deal is the one that's not done. So you're not overspending for something that you didn't like anyway. Third step. Well, let's go to the home search. I'm sorry. And that wasn't the third step anyway. That was the sixth step. Let's talk about the homes. Let's go to Crowley, Texas itself and see what we got. So Crowley, Texas, 131 properties available for sale right now at the average of $358,000. Now, this includes all types of homes. This includes condos, multifamily, commercial, land, townhomes, residential lease, and farm and ranch. But we're only going to keep the single family residence because that's what most of you are looking for right now. This is the footprint of Crowley. Right, so you have all this area right here. And to give you an idea of where Crowley is, it's south of Fort Worth. Now, Crowley is a place that is near and dear to my heart because I have several investment properties there. I used to live in Crowley itself. I just love that place. And I think it's a sound investment. Now, when it comes to Crowley in of itself, you're going to see that the least expensive home for sale right now is $203,000. So you're talking about the low 200. So if you have a pre-approval in hand of up to $250,000, believe it or not, you can find yourself 20 minutes from downtown Fort Worth for under $250,000. And that's for a house. And that's unheard of in most markets. Now, one of the things that I do want to call out here is that most likely some of these will need work. I'm not saying that they're going to be perfect right off the shelf. However, this is you having options. Oh, let me X out of here real quick. You having options for what you're looking for in a home. Now, there's 83 properties available for sale right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a cap on our search. We're going to say $300,000. Is our cap. And you're going to see the type of property available for sale right now under $300,000. As you can see, many of these, I mean, this is rehab. It's beautiful homes right here. These are homes that are ready to go. Many of them are in good enough condition for you to move in and without having to touch anything. Now, this is, again, all under $300,000. You have 24 properties available for sale right there. But let's continue. Let's go to the 300 at 400 mark, and then we'll do 400 and above. So you're going to notice that about 66% of the homes are under $400,000. That is, you have the flexibility to live wherever it is that you want within Crowley for the most part. Now, there's going to be more expensive neighborhoods out there, which we'll see here shortly. But for the most part, you're going to have if you want to be in North Crowley, if you're going to be in South Crowley as you get closer to Burleson, if you want to be on the west side of Crowley so you can get closer to Chisholm Trail, if you want to stay closer a little bit to the I-35, you have options for you. And you see the homes that are available for sale between $300,000 and $400,000. It's wide open. And you see the rest of the homes right here. That's a beautiful home for $387,000. It's a large home for $387,000. That's beautiful. All right, so the other filter I want to share with you right now is go to 400 plus. So you see the rest of the properties available for sale, which should be about what, 20 or 30? 30 right there, 29. So you see up here is another subdivision up here that's a little bit more on the expensive side or on the higher price side. And then right in here in this area, which I believe these were MI homes that were being built at that time. So you see all the homes that are available for sale right now. And you see some reduced prices. So what you're starting to see here is some pushback on prices. This is a brand new home. It's getting reduced. So you're seeing on the higher end of the any market that you're looking at. Hey, Eli, what's up? Good seeing you. Good seeing you. On most of the markets that you're going to be exploring here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you're noticing that there's more price reductions. In our weekly newsletter, I believe there was 5 times more price reductions than price increases, something to that effect. So things are changing. Things are changing. It's something that to be mindful of whenever you're putting in an offer on a home. All right, so one of the things I want to share with you is how to actually price out a home. I want to share with you a bit more of what it would cost for you to buy. So what we're going to do is we're going to buy a home between 300 and basically 300. We're going to buy a home in the 300,000s, and we're going to say we're going to buy this home. Let's go for a round number. Let's buy this home for, let's say this one. Let's call it 325. That's what we're going to buy this home for. All right, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to do several different things. So we're going to go over here to the mortgage calculator and calculate what our mortgage payment is going to be. That's going to help you understand essentially if this is the budget that you need to be within. If this home is affordable to you, it's going to give you essentially the breakdown. Now, here's the thing. We're going to quickly move this here to what we're needed to be. I think 325 is what we said. So this right here, this 325, that is the asking price. That's the price of the home that we're going to be buying. Now, of course, you can put an offer below this and all that fun stuff, but right now we're just doing 325. That's the sales price that we're going to go with. Now, to keep things easy, super quick math, super easy math, I'm going to go with, actually, no, let's go with hard math. We're going to go with 5% down. So we're going to go with 5% down just so you see what it looks like. Now, do you need 5% down? No. If you do a conventional loan, you can go down to 3%, remember, plus closing costs. And if you do FHA loans, that's 3.5%. Remember, there's some additional closing costs there as well. And also, you're going to get more closing costs. You're going to have more closing costs with FHA because there's a funding fee. So just be mindful of that. But I'll talk about that as we get going. So when it comes to the home here, we're going to be $325,000. That's the home price for this home in Crowley. That's the home that we're trying to buy right here. Now, the down payment, we're saying 5% down, which the difference between a 5% down and 20% down, well, it's obvious. It's the 15% difference. So you just do the math, 15 times 325. But it goes beyond that. If you do less than 20% down when you're purchasing a home, you're going to be paying what's called mortgage insurance. So with this mortgage insurance is the lender is putting an additional premium on that loan. They're essentially buying an insurance for you, or because of you, I guess. So in the event that you default on the loan, that way they recoup as much of their expenses as possible. Because keep in mind, since you're buying a home, in this particular case, $325,000 in Crowley, you are putting 5% down, meaning that you're now owner of 5% of the property. The bank is owner 95%, and they're wanting to hedge their bet. Now, had you done 20% down, that mortgage insurance goes away because the bank sees you as having enough skin in the game, enough equity in the game to where they don't charge that additional percentage. And you'll see what it looks like here shortly. Anyway, so that's the difference. So had we done 20% or more, we're not going to be paying mortgage insurance, which you'll see later on in this calculator. But since we didn't put 20% down, we put less than that, then you will see us add that into the equation here shortly. All right, so our loan term is going to be 30 years, pretty standard. And when it comes to interest rate, that fluctuates all of the time. We're just going to get an average. Since this is a resale, we are going to be looking at more of a retail rate here. So we're just going to go to bankrate.com and look at mortgage rates to see what's going on right now. And right now, the average is 6.91%. So 6.91% right here. Now, this 6.91% is, of course, an average. You might get higher, you might get lower. Depends on your credit, depends on your debt to income, depending on how much you're putting down, depends on several different factors. But just to keep things as simple as possible, I'm showing you public places where you can go and find this information and replicate this in your particular home search. So if you're looking to buy a Crowley home that's $500,000, nothing changes here. You just apply the exact same numbers. Now, what will change is something that we really need to talk about with much precision, and that's called property taxes. So with the property taxes, anyway, by the way, don't focus on zip code, don't focus on credit score, because that basically is going to affect your interest rate. We're just playing the average here. So we've already done that calculation, so don't worry about these two. What we do want to worry about is the property taxes. Now, property taxes on a home of, I think this defaulted to 425 or so, I believe. On a home of 425, they quoted $214 for property taxes, which is beyond wrong. And I'm going to show you where to go and find that. Now, one of the places that you may find at least some information, it's not going to be the accurate information, but at least some information is going to be on the listing itself. Some of the listings will show you what the present homeowner is paying in property taxes, but simply because the present homeowner is paying that doesn't mean that you're going to be paying for that. In fact, it doesn't mean that. You're going to be paying something different, and I'm going to show you where to go to find that. So with this particular home, what we need to do is we need to find the property tax rate for the city of Crowley. Now, whenever we find the property tax rate for the city of Crowley, we're going to multiply that times the assessed value of the home. And for our purposes today, we're going to be using what's called the market value, but I'll get into that here shortly. First, we need to find that property tax rate. So for us to actually find the property tax rate, all we have to do is type in Crowley, Texas, property tax rate into Google, and we're going to go and look at their website to see if they disclose it outright. And they do. So here they have several numbers that are important to us. So let's talk about these quickly. All of the cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are going to have a property tax rate. In fact, all the cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are going to have three numbers that we need to factor in, and many of the cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are going to add two additional ones. So the three numbers, again, these are going to be added together to get a property tax rate. The three numbers that we're going to have to contend with across the entire DFW Metroplex are the following: the city tax rate, the county tax rate, and the ISD tax rate. So I'll say that again: city, county, ISD. Those three numbers come heck or high water. Doesn't matter if you're in Southlake, doesn't matter if you're in Mansfield, doesn't matter if you're in Plano, doesn't matter if you're in Denton, Crowley, Burleson, Fort Worth, Louisville, wherever. You're going to be factoring those three numbers in. So we're going to be adding them together. Now they're all going to be different, so that's why you got to go to each specific website, each city website, to get these numbers. But for the most part, those three numbers are going to be present: city, county, ISD. The other two numbers are oftentimes present, not always, but are oftentimes present. The other two numbers that exist are the higher education tax and the hospital network tax. So again, higher education, hospital network tax. So with Tarrant County cities, you're probably looking at TCC, Tarrant Community College. If you're on the, in this particular case, since we're talking about Crowley, you're talking about JPS, John Peter Smith Health Network. So what you're seeing here in Crowley is the city, the county, the ISD, and one higher education tax. Now, what I'm not seeing here is this right here. What they're missing, and I need to probably call them and let them know that they need to update their website. But what they're missing is so again, I used to live in Crowley, so I know this, and I have a paper here. With the property taxes that I just ended up paying. So I know for a fact that this is wrong. But one of the things that you're gonna look for here is the higher education tax right here. So that's what this number is. So you don't see it labeled here. So it's for some reason it's not. They didn't update that. But you have the city, you have the ISD, you have the county, you have the hospital network, and then right here, this number that accounts for about an 8% of the property taxes. That's the higher education tax. So in this particular case, TCC, Tarrant Community College. All that to say is 2.42%. That's the property tax rate in the city of Crowley. So what that means for us is what we're going to do is we're going to go back here. 2.41% times $320,000, $325,000. Now here, did I put that right? 2.42. Now let's go back to here. We see 78.65 per year. Let's go back to our calculator. Well, actually, let's go back after we do the math. Let's divide this by 12 so we can get the monthly. 655. Now notice that we're going to put 655 here, which we just replaced $214. 3 times as much is what the property tax rate actually is, what the property taxes are. Now here's the thing. This number full disclosure, is a bit conservative. It's actually going to be lower than this. Where's this coming from? Well, when you buy a home, you have several advantages, especially if you're an owner occupant. This market value of 325, this is the market value, what you bought the property for. So the market value is basically what you could realistically sell the home for. That's market value. What you're going to be assessed the property taxes on is the assessed value. So that the assessed value is oftentimes lower. Why? Well, because you probably applied a homestead exemption. Homestead exemption reduces the assessed value, the value of the home, the market value to the assessed value lower. So his assessed value is going to be lower where you're paying on this number as opposed to the market value. So you're paying less in property taxes. Also, you can protest property taxes altogether. Another big reason that the assessed value can oftentimes be significantly lower than the market value is because if you have the homestead exemption applied, there's a limit on how much your home value can actually go up every single year. It caps it. There's so many things to talk about property taxes. So there's other videos in this YouTube channel where I go into depth on each one of those. But for our intents purposes, just know that this number is a little bit inflated. It's a little bit higher. Realistically, this probably is it's probably about $600 per month. I mean, it's not super inflated, but it is going to be lower than this, just to give you a heads up and give you the differences. So you know that, hey, this is market value versus assessed value, and you have that understanding. All right, so with that being said, let's keep it moving. Homeowner's insurance on a resale of a home of this value is probably going to be about $150 per month. Home insurance has become a racket. It's absolutely challenging so continue to quote quote your home insurance every single year. It's a pain, but you have to do it. It's just so expensive these days. PMI, this is where we go back to, since we put less than 20% down, we are going to be paying either half to 1% more in mortgage insurance. So this particular PMI is probably going to be about the 150-ish, 160 mark. So I'm just going to go on the conservative side and put about $160 in PMI for a property of this value. So again, we put 5% down on 325. So we're paying a couple $100 per month or several $1,000s per year to in additional mortgage insurance until the mortgage insurance goes away if we have a conventional product. HOA fees, this particular home, I don't know if it had an HOA, but we're going to look for it. Annually, mandatory, how much is it? Association fee $350, that's annually. So was that $20? $20. All right, so this number right here, which started off at the default of $425,000, is going to change to $3,020 right now. So for you to buy this home, that's at $325,000. With you putting 5% down, your monthly mortgage is going to be about $3,000. Remember, we baked in a little bit of cushion here at the property tax level, so it's going to be less than this. But so here, just expect about $3,000 as your monthly mortgage payment with the interest rate that we're looking at. All right. So that's how you go about calculating that. Now, remember, all of our stuff, everything that we have going on, dfwhomebuyerclass.com, that's where you're going to want to go to get all of our notes, everything that is happening at this time. So everything that you're seeing on the screen right now, just go there. You're going to get all the information. But with that being said, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about making an offer, because oftentimes, Cynthia, sorry, I missed your question. Where are we at? I have a question. What happens to the homestead exemption when you start renting? Well, if you start renting, give me a few more details there. I'll give you an example. I'm just, as you share a little bit more, but to give you an idea, if let's just say you rent the home and you move to Europe, as an example, it means that you don't own another home here. If you have the homestead exemption on that rental, it's probably not going to be dropped off because you didn't apply it somewhere else. It's probably not going to, just being completely candid on how it works, I'm not suggesting you do this, but it's probably not going to be dropped off. It's probably not going to come off of that property as it's getting rented. Just if you want to know the truth and how it works. Now, if you decide to rent your home, I'm assuming that that's what the scenario is when you start renting. So when you start renting your home, or now I'm kind of reading it differently. I rent my house and need to notify them, but what will happen with taxes? Okay, so you rented out your house and need to notify them. So your taxes are going to go higher. So if you rented out your house, then you're paying several $100s more, less. You're paying probably depending on the value of your home, you could be paying about $300 to $500 less in property taxes per year when you notify that no longer is your homestead exemption or your primary residence. The homestead exemption at that point will drop off. And that means that you're going to be paying more in property taxes. So either you apply, because you only have one homestead exemption. You either move that homestead exemption to where you live now, that you own, or you leave it there and you conveniently forgot to let them know is what oftentimes happens. I'm not suggesting to do what I'm saying there, but will they automatically drop it off? No. If you let them know, yes, they will drop it off. And unless you apply it somewhere else, that is the home in and of itself. Once you take it off, yes, your property taxes are going to go up because that homestead exemption at that point doesn't have the additional. I think with this tax rate right now, or the ISD taxes, I think you're getting up to $100,000 in reduction now from the assessed value. So you're paying more. That's a really good question. How can I save taxes on the house I rented? You just protest the heck out of it. Protest the property taxes the heck out of it. So I have another video. If you look at my uploaded videos, there's a video on how to protest property taxes. I actually show you how I protested all of my rentals. This is really one of the most recent uploads. I think I published it right around May 15th or so. I show you exactly how to protest. Like literally, I screen share exactly how to protest. But that's the most effective, and in fact, the only way to protest property taxes. To save on property taxes on the homes that you rent. And again, I show you exactly how to do it. So I show you the screen and everything in between. Great questions. Such good questions. Thank you. Great questions. All right, so let's make an offer. Let's buy a house in Crowley, Texas. Let's go over there right now and actually go here. So this is a contract that you're most likely going to be sent by your real estate agent. Now, this isn't me telling you fill it out this way. This isn't me giving you advice on what the offer should look like. I'm just sharing with you what you're going to most likely be sent by the real estate agent that you're working with. Now, hopefully, ideally, this is us, one of our agents. But if it's not, that's okay too. But we're gonna go through the main points here that you need to be aware of. So number one, of course, is the parties. Who is purchasing? Who's buying? Two is what property are you purchasing, and make sure that this is correct. Oftentimes, we pull information without necessarily double checking. So please double check that you're buying the property that you think that you're buying. You're going to be surprised how often this gets messed up. Exclusions. One thing that I do want to call out here with the exclusions, when you go and see a property, when you go and look at a property right there, whatever it happens to be, the expectation is that anything that you see attached to the wall, to the ceilings, to the floor, so anything that's affixed to the property itself is staying unless it's called out here. So as an example, if you really like a chandelier that's there, and a chandelier that's there, and all of a sudden you don't see it when you're closing, unless it was called out here, they breached the contract. Meaning, if they the sellers plan to take the chandelier with them at closing, they need to call it out in the exclusions. If they don't call it out in the exclusions, then they are breaching the contract, because a chandelier is attached to the ceiling in this particular case, so you need to disclose that. Sales price, here's where you're letting the seller know how you plan to purchase the property, how much you're going to use in cash and how much you're going to finance, and you're going to be also attaching an addendum showing the numbers on what that's going to look like. Now, does it have to be exact? No, it doesn't have to, but It does need to be close, right? You can't say that you're going to do 90% cash and 10% finance only to flip it in the end and say, well, I'm actually doing 5% cash and 95% is going to get finance. That is, could you get away with it? Honestly, you could. Is that the best way of doing it? No. A listing agent that does their job and really is proactive in protecting their clients will find this out. And if they do find out just this plan here, then you're I'm not gonna say you're in trouble, but there's less likelihood that you're going to get accepted. And in reality, again, the closest that you can get to how you plan to finance yourself is going to be very important, because otherwise it could be seen as you're trying to present something that you're not and misrepresenting your situation. So again, how much you plan to put in cash, how much you plan to finance, and how much you plan to offer. Leases, if you typically see this, if you buy more investment properties that have a tenant in them, then you do need to call out that there's going to be a residential lease attached to it. Now, if you also buy a home that has a fixture lease, which most of the examples that I give here are solar panels, that's becoming more and more of a thing. So just be mindful of that. If there is a solar panel, then most likely you need to check off these boxes here when it comes to leases. Now, earnest and termination option, this is where I want to spend a few seconds in sharing the differences between the two. Earnest is essentially a good faith deposit that you put on, that you are putting on the purchase of your property. So within 3 days of you executing this contract, you will need to put up this money, this earnest money, and send it to the title company. Again, within 3 days of you executing this contract, you are expected to put this earnest money down. So or earnest money is essentially about 1% of the asking price. Now, this is not law. This is not necessary. This is not canon. It doesn't have to happen, but it's very customary, and it's what listing agents are looking for and sellers are looking for. So if you don't put any earnest money down, your offer is not that strong. It's not going to get looked at with a ton of credibility there. So just be mindful of that. So earnest is typically going to be about 1% down. And once you go through to the finish line, once you actually end up purchasing that property all the way through, then that earnest gets applied to your closing. So that means it goes into your purchasing of the property. Now, if you decide to back out of that contract in a compliant way, in other words, if you don't break contract, then that earnest money comes back to you. So if here in this particular case, since we're buying this house for $325,000, the earnest would be about $3,300. So that's what's at stake. If you go all the way through and purchase it, that gets credited to you at closing. If you get out of that contract in a compliant way, then that gets sent back to you. But if you break the contract and don't have protection, so again, if you essentially break the contract, breach the contract, then that earnest money is gone. So just be mindful of that. You could find yourself losing $3,200 just like that, if you don't have the protections in place, and if you're working with a real estate agent that doesn't know how to protect you to the best of their abilities. Now, when it comes to options, so the termination option, you're giving yourself several days to terminate this contract, depending on, most of the time, why you would be doing these option days is because you're doing some inspection. So a common, or something that typically happens, is a termination period, is what it's called, is you're paying a couple $100 for it, either $100 or $200 for 5 to 10 days of option period, where it gives you time to go and look at the property with a bit more focus and seeing the condition of the home. So you would be putting an inspector in there, and the inspector will send you back a full report on the condition of the property. Now, if there's something that's if there's something that comes back that changes the condition of the home significantly, so it's something that you wouldn't have seen with the naked eye, and like you see that, hey, there's foundation issues that are going to impact the valuation of the home, so I will either ask for that to be repaired or get a credit for before I get out of option. Essentially, it allows you to do what I call negotiation number 2. Based off of the condition of the home, I choose to re-underwrite the deal slightly based off of the condition of the home. And you get, again, this is a fee. So here, if you go through all the way to the end and close on the property, that fee gets applied to closing, or it gets credited to you at closing. But if you decide to execute your option to terminate, so that's why it's called a termination option, if you decide to terminate, those $200 or $100 or whatever you spent on those 5 to 10 days of option, do not get sent back to you. That's a fee. That's an expense that you paid to have that right. Title policy. Title policy essentially lets you, it's an insurance that whatever you purchase is in fact what you purchase. So here's what that means. Once you purchase the property and a few months down the road, a cousin comes out of the woodwork that was cousins to the homeowner that sold you the home. They say, hey, that homeowner that you dealt with that sold that house should not have sold that house. They don't have right to it. It's actually my property. Well, at that point, with your title policy, it's the title policy, the title, basically that title insurance that will protect your purchase. At that point, it's not your problem, it's somebody else's problem, and they're going to attest to that. So here, just like anything in real estate, it is negotiable. So in normal markets, you see sellers pick up the seller policy, title policy more often, but this is, again, a negotiable item. Survey is a survey is basically a piece of paper that lets you know where what it is that you're buying, and it gives you the boundary lines so you know where to put your fence. It lets you know where the easements are so you know where not to build on in case some utility companies come through and start digging up your ground or your dirt. So the survey is, again, a document that lets you know where your property is. It's basically a legal description. Now, be mindful here. If you have a survey, once you get a survey in your hands, don't lose it, because it's a $600 piece of paper if you do lose it, and somebody has to pay for that in the event that you sell your home later on. So it's either you or the buyer that's going to need to pay for that. Seller's disclosure. It's under Texas property code that you have to disclose. You as a homeowner, so you as a buyer, you receive this, but under Texas property code, the homeowner has to disclose the condition of the home or to the best of their abilities. So the homeowner will let you know what the property has or doesn't have, and also lets you know what the condition is of the home, so you know what you're getting into. And the rest of the information is pretty spot on, or pretty self-explanatory. But the one thing I do want to share here is the closing date. The closing date, typically you're going to be closing within about 25 days of when you're getting under contract. So you can go faster, you can go slower. You can close a property within 10 days. Like you can close with the property within 14 days. Like, sure, you can do that. It's going to be very challenging, but you can. But for the most part, 25 days is about right. It's about an average if you're going to be buying. So that's where I get into the breakdown. That's where I share more of the I break it down into 4 weeks. Whenever our clients are working with us, my internal sales team really does a really good job of sharing and communicating that with our clients so they know what to expect, what they need to be working on for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 while they're under contract. So after you made this offer and it gets accepted, it's time to get to work. So in week 1, you're working on the inspection. So here you're scheduling the inspections, getting that inspection report back, and negotiating any items on that inspection report, and keep it moving. Remember, you have probably 5 to 10 days for these option periods. So you need to get the inspector out there, get the report back, strategize with your real estate agent what you're going to ask for, give the seller some time to respond, go back and forth. And at the end of the day, if it still makes sense for you to move forward with that property, then you continue moving forward with that property. If not, exercise your termination, so you can get out of that contract with minimal financial damage. So that's what happens in week 1. You're doing some inspection. So you're going to do a general inspection, and then if there's something that requires some additional eyes, like a more specialized eyes, whether that's a plumber, an electrician, a roofer, a foundation specialist, then you also need to schedule them quickly. That's why it's very important that you're working with a qualified real estate agent that has this network, that has these people on standby, that can put people, reputable people, because anybody can go out to a property and give you their opinion, but there's certain opinions that we don't care about. So it's very important that you're working with the real estate agent that has those resources and network to help you and protect you, more importantly. Week 2, after week 1 is done, once our inspections are done, once we feel good about the property and we continue moving forward, that's when you need to really work very closely with the title company and the lender so you can start getting the loan approved and also the title work done. And so also at this time that the lender is going to order what's called an appraisal. An appraisal is basically the opinion of value from an appraiser. So the lender, keep in mind, if you're putting 5% down, the lender is putting 95% of the property. So they're trying to protect their interests. So in the appraisal aspect, so whenever you get whenever this appraisal gets ordered, you're going to the lender's gonna order that, and it's gonna take about a week, depending on how busy the appraisal company is. But once that appraisal gets ordered, they're gonna give you an opinion of value of what the home is realistically valued at. So if you're under contract for $325,000, you need that appraisal to be $325,000 or above. If it's below, you're in trouble, and we'll talk about that here shortly. Now, as you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And also, hitting that like button is going to go a long way. It's going to really help us distribute this video to everybody looking to buy in Crowley. Step 9, conditions week. I call it conditions week because oftentimes once the loan is submitted to underwriting by the lender, the underwriters are gonna send back out. They're gonna send the lender back some conditions to be met. So they might be asking for additional clarification on documents you submitted. They might be asking for additional documents that are missing. They might be asking for X, Y, and Z. So essentially, this is where on week 3, you as a buyer are clearing out additional conditions that are asked of you. So as an example, with me, whenever I go and purchase a property, I have to sign a letter that lets them know that I'm attesting to the fact that 2 of my rentals don't have HOAs. The rest of them do, but 2 of my rentals don't have HOAs. So I have to attest to that. So I have to, that's a condition that I have to meet every single time. I know it's minor, but some of these things, they may seem the most minor things in the world, but if you don't do them, then you're not going to get the loan. So that's the challenge. Now, at this point where you're going to receive the appraisal. So remember, the lender on week 2, they ordered that appraisal, which you're paying for, by the way. It's certainly nothing free. So it's about $550. Now, once the appraisal comes back, this is where we really need to be mindful of what this is where you really will find the value of a real estate agent, especially if things go a little bit wrong. So let's say you're under contract for $325,000. That's the under contract price, but the appraisal comes back at $300,000. Let's just say the appraiser comes back and says, hey, this home is not worth $325,000, so we're going to lend up to $300,000 because that is what the appraisal is coming back at. So essentially, that's what the value of this home is according to this appraiser. So 1 of 4 things can happen. Either, number 1, you come out of pocket and make up the difference of $25,000. You love this home so much that someone else is telling you that it's actually not that value. It's not as valued as you think it is. So that $25,000, again, you're at $325,000 and the home is being appraised at $300,000. That $25,000 difference, you come to the table with. So that's option 1. Option 2 is that the seller accepts to lower that price to $300,000. So here again, you're under contract for $325,000, and now it's the seller that's taking that hit and saying, okay, well, I'll take $25,000 less if that means that you can get approved and we close as soon as possible. So that's the second thing that can happen. The third thing that can happen is you meet somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in between here is the right answer. Whoever has the most leverage is typically going to be the one that gets the better edge here. And then number 4 is assuming you have the right clauses in here, and assuming that you have the right right outs here, you can walk away from the contract. So again, there's an escape clause if you're not able to get financing. So here again, working with the qualified real estate professional that knows how to protect you is going to be very valuable. On week 3, you're securing your homeowner's insurance, and then on week 4, in your move-in week, you're focused on getting to closing for 1, getting your utilities activated on the closing day, receiving your closing disclosure at least 3 days before the close, which legally has to happen. This closing disclosure comes from the lender. You're doing the final walkthrough the day before or the morning of the closing, and then you're wiring the funds to the title company. So this is week 4. It moves very, very quickly, so make sure that you have that checklist in order, which again, DFWHomebuyerClass.com will get you that. And once you get to the closing table, once everything has funded, once you've signed and everything is good to go, you're officially the homeowner. I know it goes super quick. I know I'm rushing this at the end, but I just want to make sure that you get all this information before we run out of time. Now, once you close, there are certain things that you need to be doing. Number one, we're not going to go one by one, But in your first week, this is what we give our clients as a checklist, and we send reminders. We put things on their calendar so they always remember how to take better care of their home and the investment that they made within the first 30 days is what they're expected to do. Within the yearly to-dos, this is what we share with them. And then the pro tips on how to not get scammed. So after they close, they get this as a valuable tool, so they are protecting their investment that they just made. This is exactly step-by-step how to buy a home in Crowley, Texas. If you're interested in Crowley, Texas, please feel free to check out all of our other content on Crowley itself. We as far as the YouTube channels go, we have the most amount of Crowley information, the Crowley content. So please feel free to check out the rest of the information here. And if you'd like to work with us, the DFW Homeowner Group, we work with clients all throughout Crowley. In fact, all throughout the DFW Metroplex with our agents. So feel free to contact there as well. Outside of that, see you on the next one.